What up, what up, what up? It is another episode of the Shark Cove. We're back after a brief hiatus. We love to take those Sundays and Mondays off to recharge the batteries. They're 2-game slates. They're not a big deal. I did swap off the nuts last night. I didn't have 70 lineups like some profits the day before, but I did, kind of cost myself the 333, cost myself a share of the main. That's okay. We had a great day. We're currently drinking some, and I didn't know what to make the title today. There's so many cool things that I can say. I was going to talk about like white chocolate. That's what I've got right here, which is it's a white stout. It's a bourbon barrel aged with cacao nibs, vanilla beans, 14%. It's not my favorite, but yeah, I just figured it was kind of a white chocolate kind of day. Not quite as lit as I might have been on Saturday, but I've got somebody making his second time on the Cove. If you saw the tweet, you saw the promo, if you read the title and you're a smart guy, and you are a smart guy because you're watching the show, or girl, I don't think we have any girls that watch the show, maybe my wife, that's about it. But I've got James McCool from Paydirt.com. James, welcome to the Cove.
Hello, happy to be here, man. It's always an honor to be able to come on and chat a little bit about some League of Legends DFS and just league in general. And while you have white chocolate, I have wine that I bought from Walmart. It's Mark West Pinot Noir, or I don't know how to say it. I have recently decided that I wanted to be a wine mom, so every night I have wine now, unless if I have a particularly stressful day, then I'll have whiskey on rocks, but most of the time I want to try to drink wine these days. It's good for your heart,
Yeah, I've gone through a couple different wine stages myself. I had I had a little spurt in like 2017 where I felt like I had lucky bottles of wine. They'd help me win slates. They'd help me, cash and GPPs, but you could only drink them and use their luck for maybe like 2 slates, and then they would run out. So I could only drink that particular bottle. There were a couple of, bourbon barrel aged Cabernet Sauvignon. That's kind of where I like to go. But then I just straight up degened, and I wanted a box of wine. There's nothing better than squeezing that last bit of the bag, actually getting the first part where it just pours out. But, it doesn't make you feel good the next day. And I did balloon up to 285 drinking boxes of wine per night. And not the whole box, but close to it.
No, I mean enough of it, right? Like, and can you really ever have enough of a box of wine? I don't think so. They're boxes so you can stack them, so that you can just keep going. You never really have to actually run out.
I think the problem that you run into is when you see the little dribbles that that they're empty, or that you were not getting it all into your glass. That's where you maybe had a little bit too much, or if you did somehow kill the entire box. It's borderline. It's borderline. I remember a Braves against, man, I can't even think of the pitcher. It was like I drank like an entire box. My girlfriend at the time told me that I was looking for my shoes at 2 a.m, and I don't know where I was going. I just won a slate. I was super excited. I finished like 3rd in the GPP, so maybe I was going to celebrate. I don't know. Nevertheless, we're not here to talk baseball. I know that you do that though. I think that's one of the cool things about your site. I know that you have a promo, and so I'm going to let you talk about the promo. I'm going to let you talk about the site. Not only do you do League of Legends, which we're going to talk about today, but you basically do everything, right?
I do. Yeah, I do everything. So I am the owner. If you guys don't know, I've been on before, but I am the owner of PaydirtDFS.com. I've worked for a while in the industry, like a whole bunch of years. And I have my own site now. So I have taken a whole bunch of different knowledge and put together a whole bunch of models for everything on the planet. Like on the site, I have both sports and esports. Actually, most of my community at this point is diehard esports guys, because I started the site right before the pandemic, and then it was like, all right, well, here's League of Legends and Counter-Strike, and you guys can go crazy. So that was kind of the humble beginnings. And I have sports and esports. I have every single esport that you can play. I do also have Valorant models, but the contests are so bad that it's not even worth running them right now. I have baseball, I have PGA, I have NFL, I have MMA, I have NBA, I have NHL, I have tennis, everything basically you could play. The only things I don't have at this point, I think, are NASCAR and F1. And that's mostly just because I don't want to run models for them. I don't care about NASCAR all that much. And even though I think that it's an algorithmically beaten sport and I could probably build really good models for it, like I just don't want to run it. So regardless, you can find anything that you want. There's also some free stuff. Right now I have all of the free MLB stuff that I put up. And this stuff is just, even if you don't have a subscription to the site, you can use it to do some research for baseball slates. I'm adding PGA, and I'm also going to add some League of Legends stuff. Hopefully this week. I don't know. We'll see. I need to get NFL models up for the off season. So anyway, if you're interested in having all of the models in the world for one subscription, it's all just there for $30 a month. And if you use the code SHARK, all caps, at checkout for monthly right now, you get $5 off. So, you might as well go check it out. There's daily and weekly and monthly subscriptions as well if you just want to try things out. So regardless of all that, come join the Discord. That is free to join, and Emrick's there, and he's giving out plays for League of Legends most days in the esports betting channel, and taking place in the League of Legends channels. And yeah, it's a good time. Just come join the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's something that is attractive to some people, that they don't, look, a lot of my viewers are in different Discords with me, but I know that there are some that just kind of trickle in, whether it be through the Twitter algorithm, they find it on YouTube. There was one person the other day who apparently was just really aggressively trying to get us to join a Tinder-like site, promising some really good stuff. I hope you guys had an opportunity to check that out. That was amazing. Like, the guy just wouldn't stop with it. But if you are one of those people that finds us through that avenue, sometimes it's nice to have other people to sweat and talk about these type of things with. And you don't have to pay to join. I recommend that you join. You get a lot of benefits from it. But look, there's a lot of free stuff in every one of those channels. Like, I don't play every sport, but I hung out the baseball channel for a while before League of Legends came in, and there's some guys out there putting their free content, some different things that can give you an edge. And there's sharp people in every channel. I'm not going to say who they are. In the League of Legends, there's not a lot of sharp people there. Let me tell you that. No, absolutely. Especially not like the moderator. I mean, he was good the other night, though.
He wins an occasional GPP.
Sure. And then, there's that Cody guy. Nobody runs worse. So I wouldn't want to follow him. Nevertheless, did you want to pull up your site and share the screen and we could start there? Or do you want to start with kind of Bovada and taking a look at what we got there?
Let's just take a look at the site really quick, and then we'll jump into the actual stuff.
All right, you might have to make the site a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger?
Yeah.
How do I do that? It's full screen.
So if you go into the top right where the three dots are.
Yeah.
And then I see zoom. Usually, yeah, that's better right there.
Let's
see, maybe we can do this. No, that's not a good way. Let's do that.
I can keep zooming in.
No. I usually keep it around 150 is usually where is the sweet spot.
All right, well, we'll hold it at 150. That's work.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, this is Paydirt. This is homepage. You can join. We have projections, coaching, and the community. You can click on any one of these. The coaching goes straight to my coaching link. So if you want to pay me $50 to tell you how to be better at DFS, then you can do that. If you want to join Discord, you can just do that. Also, you'll be able to go through any of this stuff. So, free research, all the MLB stuff, sports models. You'll be able to look at all the different sports models here. There is subscription account, login, all that cool stuff. But the main thing that we're going to be talking about today, obviously, is going to be the League of Legends stuff. So if we go over into the League of Legends models, then you're going to see an explainer video from me, a video put together by that one moderator in my site. I don't even know his name at this point. But
he's a fantastic producer. He makes the book of moves at this point. Right now, he is collecting pictures for that. So there's a clip for you, Cookie.
And then I did actually make the League of Legends projections free for tonight, just because we're here and, we're going to be talking about them. So if anybody wants to follow along and take a look at the projections, you can go over and go to the site and go to the LCK LPL main slate. So that's going to be what we're looking at. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the models are built in Excel embeds. And most of them are going to be built on stuff that is a little bit more complex than just typical medians, right? So you're going to have the median projections here, but at the same time, you're going to have range of outcomes models, which you'll find is kind of a staple across almost every single thing that I offer over at Paydirt. You're going to see the percentile chances that players score certain thresholds. So like Elk scores 35 plus fantasy points 38% of the time. But when the team wins, he reaches there 80% of the time. When the team loses, he gets there 10% of the time. So stuff like that. It's really, really powerful. And it's one of the reasons why like the best esports players in the world sub to my site. Even if they sub to everywhere else, they specifically sub to my site for projections for esports, just because I do offer this kind of stuff. And I do believe that I have the best projections in the forward-facing tout industry. So this is kind of stuff that you're going to see with the MLB models, since MLB is kind of the other big one that's happening right now. You're going to be able to see most of like that kind of similar style, where you're going to see first lead up into the stacks page, where you're going to see how often teams score 8 or more runs, the average hitter projections, average score, stuff like that. So how often they are the winning team on the slate, their ownership. There's a whole bunch of bells and whistles. If you want to kind of get a look at what that kind of stuff can offer, there's going to be the free secondary range of outcomes. So you'll be able to go through this, and this is completely free every day. It doesn't get updated every day. It gets updated for secondary slates. But if you want to see what's offered there, then you can go here and you can go all the way through. That workbook has everything the main models have. But this is mostly what we're going to be getting, is a lot of percentile-based and range of outcomes-based models that offer a lot more than what median projections are going to be able to give you.
So now one thing that I do know about your site is very different than my own projections is you have the actual odds listed. All of my projections are done in win situations, either 2-0 or 2-1, and they do fall in the median. Obviously, when you get the 8-7 game or the 27-10 game, those, it's accounted for, but it isn't what we're shooting for. So, I mean, as an example, when I'm building it out, I'm taking a look at it and I'm projecting, T1 is probably going to score on average, 16 kills in a win against whoever they play. And this team, gives up 17. So maybe it's like a 16.5, which comes out to 33 in a sweep. Obviously, that can, go up and down and does account for it. But yours is a little different, but you can edit it, correct?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I do the medians at first, right? And then what I've been able to do, because that is one big thing in League of Legends and in esports specifically, is like the projection sets are super binary. So in a win, a team is almost always going to outscore a team that loses, like 96% of the time or something like that. Unless there's something crazy that happens, the winning team is going to outscore the losing team. So things are very binary like that. What I did to kind of move around that is wherever you see this kind of like light blue column header, that's something that you can actually change and address yourself in my models, and you'll be able to see it in the Counter-Strike models too. But if you wanted to go in here and you wanted to say, okay, just show me the projections overall for each individual team in a win, right? You would be able to go in here and you can just change everything to negative 350. Just kidding. You can't do Control-C.
It's like you're hitting it so fast, it's not even registering.
So you can do that. And then it is actually going to extrapolate across the projections for the players. So then when it reloads, you're going to see now Teddy, who's on Kwangdong, he's projected for 96 now. So then you can resort this and you can just see the in-win projections, right? So now this is a much different view of the slate overall. You're going to see guys like Kwangdong is going to be up there, and they're up against T1, right? Like they're plus 800 or something like that. T1 is negative 1400 tonight. So even though they're massive underdogs, if they were to win, we would expect Teddy to be the player that would be the highest scoring player on the slate in a median outcome, right? So usually what you want to do is you want to go in there and you want to take a look at those kinds of things so that you can really break down the slate and get an idea of who the best GPP plays are, right? Also, for cash games, I find it very helpful to actually make everybody an underdog. If you're looking for floor projections, right, you can go through and do that, and then you can sort by largest, smallest, and then these are the players and the teams that are going to be the best for cash games. So FPX looks like the team that has the best projections for cash games, mostly because their opponent that they're going up against, Rare Atom, typically gives up quite a bit of fantasy points, even when they do beat the other team. So those are kind of two different ways to go about it. I think that there is a lot of value in understanding not only the median, but of course the upside of if they win and the downside of if they lose. Putting together kind of that range of where a player can actually be and who the best plays are because of it, I think is really important if you're going to be a high-level DFS player.
Absolutely. I don't think I would consider FPX a cash play, but I just realized that despite being 0-5, they're playing Rare Atom and they're even money. So perhaps today's the day. Today's the day that they get the win. Who knows?
Well, and also, if you go over and look at the fantasy matchups, this is another thing. Like, we have a proprietary stat here at Paydirt called the CKPMR diff, which was built up by the Hatter, and it's very, very good for developing if a team is better than another team. It kind of works off of skirmishing. So a team who is higher in this should be the favorite. And when you see, FPX, like they are 0.01 over Rare Atom, like this game is a true coin flip, but the team efficiency for Fun Plus Phoenix is a little bit better, meaning that they play better in team fights and they play better as a team overall. So things like that, there's just a lot of really cool stuff. And when I do end up getting to run ELO tech and posting it in the Discord, like that goes great. I just have not had the time to actually run it, which is a bummer because I love running that model. I think it's really strong, but there's a lot of things that just kind of allow you to make these informed decisions and make better plays in GPPs and cash games alike.
Sure. Well, so very cool. So that right now is free for tonight, right? And then we've got a $5 coupon off on this. I don't know how long that's going to be. I mean, it might be a night, it might be 2 nights, it might be a month, but likely not. So you want to go and take advantage of that with code SHARK, all caps. Maybe James will give me 50 cents on that. That would be super wonderful. You never know.
Somebody teach me how to do affiliate deals. Like that's the next step for the site, right? I've figured out all the SEO stuff, and now I have to figure out how to do affiliate deals so that I can do things like that. I'm
always plugging a Patreon, say that there's a code. There's not a code. I do, believe in Gelati's Patreon, so go sign up for it.
Oh, he's incredible. I also agree with that. Yeah, go sign up for his Patreon.
But please send him an email and let him know that you signed up because of me, and then maybe he'll send me 50 cents too. It'll be good. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So we have all of this. Let's talk about, and we can do it while we're looking at this screen here. I'm going to go to a different screen, so I'm not going to be looking at it. So maybe based off of what I'm pulling up and talking about, you can kind of navigate on the screen here. But let's talk about some of these games. I mean, let's just start with the one that we've talked about at the beginning here. It's the one that is between two teams that have been nothing short of disappointing thus far this split. We've got Rare Atom, and anybody who's been in the Discord, or at least the esports department Discord with me for any period of time, knows that dating back to, I think it was December 2020, maybe it was, is it the Demacia Cup? Is that what? I think so. Look, Vici just ran through. They ran through Nest. They ran through Demacia. And I was like, look, they figured it out. This is going to be the team. They have a shot. And then Gelati came, he co-signed it and said, yes, all the stats say yes. Me and him started the Rare Atom bandwagon. Nobody jumped on for the entire year. They had a good year. They just never were a great fantasy team. Then, still on this bandwagon. And it seems like the wheels have fallen off. iBoy is not who I wanted him to be. He's who everybody thought he was. And then this FPX team that I've bet futures on the last 2 splits has yet to find a win and really doesn't have, in my opinion, an identity. So this game is absolutely disgusting. We've got an over-under, I think, on this game right now at 24.5. 23.5 if you're looking at the under, 24.5 if you're looking at the over. I mean, James, what, if any, opinion do you have on either of these teams from a betting standpoint, from a DFS standpoint?
I mean, look, I think so. First, I'll say that 24 is probably a fair line. I don't know that I would want to take the over or the under on it. I will say that when we have a close CKPMR diff, that usually signifies a game that is a little bit more bloody. So I guess I would lean over on 24. But I mean, it's just between two teams that are underperforming based on their rosters, right? Like FPX has been a team that has been able to find success split after split, and they come out this split and they start 0-5. Like they've only won 3 matches so far overall, or 3 games overall out of all their matches. So they look really, really bad, and it's not something that you expect. I think that very likely OWX, like their bot lane is just struggling really badly in the meta, and with the durability shifts, I think that they're just not playing well into what the meta is demanding right now. And I think that kind of comes down to something that is harder to overcome than just like picking yourself up by the bootstraps and like having a team meeting, right? Like that their mid is still strong. I think that their jungle presence is not the worst in the league, but their bot lane is just falling apart. And right now I think you need a strong bot lane in order to find success, especially with scaling games. So Rare Atom, on the other hand, like, I don't know. I've never really been a big iBoy fan. I think that he's fine. I think he's replacement level, but that they at least look like they are competent in the meta, that they're playing well. They're winning enough of their games, even if they're not winning the matches. They're able to at least put up fights. But yeah, it's rough. I think that FPX has likely experienced a bit of bad luck. But this game is a true toss-up. Like I said, everything basically points to this game being a true toss-up between two teams that just don't really know how to find success. If I was going to take a bet on one side or the other, I would bet on the Rare Atom side. I do think they deserve to be favorites in this spot. I think that they have taken more games off of opponents, and I think they look better in the meta. But FPX has a pedigree. I don't want to count them out completely. I want them to turn it around because I do think that they are a better team here, and I don't think that they're going to finish the split in last place. So I think this can be a turning point for them.
So let's take a look. I have my proprietary screen that I'm going to bring up here. Super fancy, right? You know, I've got a couple formulas. I add a new one every single split. This split, it was this little guy right here. Oh man, and this has made the world of difference. So look, we look at these two teams, and like I kind of like the over 24. I really do. I mean, you just look at some of these games that they've played. Yes, they have those under games, and here's almost the way that I look at it. You know, especially with a team like RA, who I don't actually feel as strong as I do with FPX. You pick one game, and then you just live with it. Like, is it the first game? Is it the second game? Because I'd rather try and get one game right than both games right. Because if I get one game right at like a minus 120 and I get the other game wrong, you know, I'm obviously out the juice for this, and that kind of sucks. But one thing I would point out in FPX, they have looked bad, but let's give them a break here. They have not had the easiest schedule to start this season.
Yeah.
They start off with EDG. They go into IG, who's looked better. I mean, IG never looked better in the last year and a half, maybe, than they did in that series. Then you get to play RNG, and you thoroughly handled RNG in the first game. Just couldn't close it out the next two. You get beat by V5, who, like, nobody is beating V5. They've dropped one map so far. And then you beat Top Esports in a game, but drop the series. And look, that's hard. Whereas RA has played Anyone's Legend, OMG, Up, and Weibo. That's almost like a who's who of like the mid range versus a who's who of the top. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of feel like I like FPX in this series. I don't know how the pricing works yet. I haven't looked at it too deeply, but you know, that's my initial thought. is FPX is probably being slept on a little bit. I wish that they were playing somebody that people didn't hate as much as people hate playing RA. Because look, let's face it, and anybody that's watching this can relate. You don't like clicking on RA because you're like, man, who do I put in my stack? I don't want to put Ibo in my stack, or Iboy. Ibo would be cool, but he's not in the league. I don't want to put Iboy in my stack, so I want to put Strive in there. I want Leanne, and I kind of want Cube. Like, I want these three guys, but that doesn't allow me to get a 4-3. And either Mikta, I have to pick Iboy, I've got to get Yanja. Like, it just doesn't feel good. I'd rather play FPX. Not that I like playing Clid, not that I like playing Hang, but I think FPX might be a spot that I'm interested in. RA has been a little bit more friendly in terms of fantasy points and losses, despite this 1-6, this 9-6 game that they had more kills. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. That just seems weird, but that's kind of where I'm at there. So let's take a look.
I have good news for you. FPX is cheaper.
I assume that they would be. They'll probably fit with anybody. I guess, to start off, I don't think that I'm going to be playing RA in my cash lineups. I strictly play favorites in cash. RA might not be a favorite that I'm looking at. So,
no. And I mean, from all the data that I've looked at and all the tests that I've ran, anything under any team that is better than 150, like, it's just a toss-up. There is no actual edge gained between teams that are between -150 and 150. So this game slots perfectly into that. It's a true toss-up. Neither one is an actual favorite. I agree with you. I think that FPX wins this game. I think that they have the pedigree. I think they've had a really, really tough run so far in terms of facing teams that are legitimately good. Yeah, they're in last place, but if you face all of the best team, like they faced an entire group of like the top 5, except for maybe Invictus. If you want to call Invictus a mid-team, that's fine. But I think I agree with you. They've had a super hard schedule, and I think they're going to come out of this. I also will say that as much as I think that FPX bot lane has struggled in this meta, I think that they're better than the bot lane of RA, like, for sure. So if I'm right that FPX has been kind of falling down a bit, because their bot lane has been struggling and they've still played well through their mid lane, then this is a spot for their bot lane to get things right.
Yeah, a real get right spot here. I almost think that you could probably take a flyer out on the -1.5. FPX is +265 to sweep this series. Look, all the statistics that you can look through, if you are, a Gelati Patreon member, you can look at this, and this does not look good for FPX. But again, the context is who they've played and how little they've won. The stats are what they are because of that reason. So, the next game, while this game ends up being a pretty close one, you mentioned it earlier, we've got +825 Kwangdong versus -1800 T1. And like, T1 feels like one of those teams that I wouldn't say that they're fraudulent per se, but they felt like they've gotten away with so much. It's what I feel like every time I see, Cody at the top of the main GPP. This guy just gets away with like having 2 losers in his lineup and like nearly taking it down. Thankfully, somebody was there to mush him. Of course, I don't condone that. I myself was mushed this Saturday by NBA Live. Incredible that it happened. I've also been mushed by Mav. He supposedly took off the mush, but then RNG with a 27 kill win. Absolutely, it's incredible, because when you get mushed, at least Cody went down and like still was profitable. I go from winning like 10K to losing 700. People mush me pretty hard. Nevertheless, here we are. T1 getting away with a lot of stuff. Kwangdong allowing people to do anything. Like, the sweep is -300. I'd want to bet the sweep, but I can't. I'm looking at even this kill spread. We're -8.5, maybe -9.5. I'm just trying to find something that I can bet on here, and I don't know if it exists.
This is going to be a rough game for Kwangdong. I mean, okay, look. So T1, they have the best team efficiency on the slate. So like they play together incredibly well. This isn't a surprise to anybody who has watched a single LCK game in the last like 2 years. They're an incredible team. They have a massive CKPMR diff. When you reach into that 0.1 more, when you have a 10% boost on this diff, that's massive. Other teams typically can't compete at all when it comes to something like that. We see something similar. DRX, when we talk about them, that's the team that I would want to bet at 347, by the way. T1 also gives up like no fantasy points, even when teams beat them. The average kills against when teams beat them is only 13. So like the kill spread here looks really good for T1, but I'm with you. I don't like taking massive favorites. Like I would much rather just stay away when it comes to these giant spreads and when it's negative 300 for a sweep. I mean, like we could see a single mistake happen. We could see a failed dive or something like that by T1 and flips the game for Kwangdong and they steal a map, right? Like I don't want to take negative 300 on something like that. And granted, T1 is one of the cleanest teams in all of League of Legends, but I'm staying away from betting anything on this game. I think the T1 just owns it handedly.
Yeah, so here's the one thing that I would say: if I am betting something on it, I think it is that sweep. I think you do throw the 3 units and put the 1. I know that's not for everybody, and I totally get it, especially with a lot of the theories that I utilize in or used to utilize, and I've kind of gotten away from it to some extent. But what I used last year, especially in the ERLs, was just strictly trying to find underdog spots that I could bet, get plus money odds. I didn't have to win. I could only I could hit at a 45% clip, and I could be profitable. Now I've steered away from that. I've evolved. The problem is when I look at other aspects of this, like so, let's say a plus 9.5, plus 8.5. Those are almost where you're getting closer to even money plus the juice. T1 so far in their wins, they had a 16-1, 19-25, so they lost the kill spread there, whatever it was. 11-7, 18-19. So in 2 scenarios, they've had less kills in a win than they had deaths, or the other way around, whichever. 16-5. So they would have covered there. 3-4, they would have covered there, but they wouldn't have covered 11-8 or 18-11. So, like, they're not covering the 8.5, 9.5 that I would want to bet if I was betting a kill spread. And then even looking at Kwangdong, while the level of competition that they've played, Nongshim, Sandbox, and HLE is certainly not that of T1 with a Gen G, Sandbox, I'm sorry, they didn't play Gen G. It was Damwon, KT, and Sandbox. But Kwangdong, 7-14. 6-17, 14-20, 8-15, 13-21, 2-14. So they're giving up that spread half the time. Will they do that to T1? Again, it's one of those scenarios where you have to bet both of them or you bet one and you hope you have the right game. And I can tell you that there's been plenty of series in the LCK and the LPL where I bet one map and I got that one map wrong. Again, I would have lost if I bet both of them. But, just trying to pinpoint, throw the dart, it's right there. So throw the 3 units if you want to. If you're feeling flush, if you've been winning a bunch of money from my ERL picks, go ahead. Today wasn't a great day, but I kind of like the 3 units right there. Not my favorite bet in the world, and it's not for everybody. Weibo versus Up. Now, this is an interesting game, James. This is a really, 2 teams with 2 different reputations and really 2 teams that could be further from each other in most people's minds. Like Weibo is this team that people perceive as good, despite not liking the Shy, but people still perceive Weibo as good. People perceive Weibo as a very slow team, and that might not have been the case so far this slit. But then you have Ultra Prime, who's, I don't know, on the uptick. People think they're good. They've won a couple games. They always score well in fantasy. Win, lose, it doesn't matter. They're going to get a 20-kill win in there and make their players viable. Elk is almost 100% playable on every single slate, whether they win or lose. They're only a plus 190 dog here. I think that's a little bit generous. I really don't think they're as good as Weibo. I don't think that they win the series, but this turns into a betting versus DFS. And in DFS, I don't care if I think they're going to win. I just care what happens if they win. If they win, they probably score well. But do you think that they're going to be over-owned? Are they going to be, as Nathan calls them, the chalk dog?
Oh, yeah, they'll be the chalk dog. Yeah, they're free. I mean, like, Elk is expensive, but you can fit pretty much their entire team while getting everybody else. Like, they basically cost less than FPX. And I think that that's going to kind of be a decision that people make here is whether they play up or FPX. And I almost guarantee that people are going to go with up. That they are a team that scores incredibly well. They have a really good team efficiency, second best on the slate. So when they score, like you said, they're going to score a lot because they're together. You know, they're playing together. They're team fighting well. They're going after objectives well, and they're stacking up a lot of points. The problem is that you said it, that Weibo, they do play relatively slow. I don't think that they play exceptionally slow. You know, and 15 kills on average against is not something that is crazy low. But if we're looking at just the medians here, then we're looking at Ultra Prime here, who is up against Weibo. Weibo ends up giving up on average 25 fantasy points per game when other teams beat them. That's pretty low. Granted, not every team they've faced has been as good as Ultra Prime. I would say that a median expectation for Ultra Prime here would be something like the 27-28 range. I actually do think that they're somewhere in the middle here. The upside, I think, really comes from Weibo. Like, they are a slow team that has to play an up-paced game against a team that is really well-oiled and really good at fighting. But when Ultra Prime is going to die, when they're going to lose these fights, they're all going to be there and losing these fights. So that's why you see Weibo at the top of this list here. Ultra Prime gives up 33.5 fantasy points per player in losses. When they lose hard. So I do think it's a very interesting game specifically because I do think that people will be on Ultra Prime as a dog. I think they would prefer to play Ultra Prime. Elk is incredible. We went over to the range of outcomes earlier, and like, Elk is right there, right? Like, he is the best player in fantasy right now in terms of his medians and in terms of his outcomes. 38% of the time scoring 35 plus fantasy points is ridiculous. It's really, really nice. So we have Cryan up here as well. He's pretty strong as well. So I think that people will more than likely be on up here against Weibo, but you could find that Weibo, especially based on the price, is going to come in under-owned on this slate when they have the best matchup on the entire slate for upside.
Yeah, so here, I'm going to bring over my screen real quick just to take a look at this. So, you know, I think the other night on Saturday, I used all of the, mental ability that I had in that given state at that time. Had quite a few Tito's and lemonades. I had quite a few Modelo's. I had a great shirt on. I was putting a lot together, and it was really hard to string together cognitive sentences, and I'm not sure that I did. But I painted a picture. Like, how do these teams not end up in the optimal? And I think that it came pretty close to actually happening. It's within that range of outcomes. You know, granted, you have those range of outcomes. 40% still only happens 4 out of 10 times, right? And when we look at Weibo has this perception still, even in my mind from last season, as being this slow team. But you look at these wins, 18, 24, 18, 22, 15, 16, 16. That's a nice range and on the high end of it. But they die a fair amount too. 19, 12, 17, 16, 22, 24. You still know that they're capable of this 7-9 type of situation, one side or the other. And that's what's scary. So while Weibo in a win or up in a win, as you can see, almost their range is even better on both ends of this. The 12-4 exists, just like the 7-9 exists. And you can say that that's an outlier, but outliers happen. So while I would sit here before you all and say that the winner of this game ends up in the optimal, there is a situation that and a path to both of these teams not being in that optimal. So basically, I pointed it out. Like, the way that it happens is Weibo just out macroing up, and Up deciding that, I don't know, that they want to try and out macro Weibo, that they don't play to their strength, which is getting a snowball lead and skirmishing, or a couple of those coin flip fights. And anybody that's played League will know that, like, you have a couple of those fights and maybe a couple people get away with just a sliver of health. And if that happens 2 or 3 times, you just know you're done. You know you're done. Mm-hmm. And that can happen here. But I like both of these teams. I think I'm going to have a fair amount. If I'm MMEing the main, I like playing them. I like trying to get a little weird with them. Like you said, FPX with Weibo, or like FPX with Up. That sounds kind of sexy to me.
I think FPX with Up is really smart. You likely won't fill out the salary cap on that either. So that's always, and I feel that that's attractive for esports. I think that not near enough people, I haven't run the numbers on it, but I don't think that enough people in the field are willing to leave multiple thousands of dollars on the table when they're building their lineups, especially in GPPs, because you've just been hammered in the face for years about spend all your salary and, spend 49.5 more, spend 49.8 more in NFL, whatever. But like in esports, that's just not the game, baby. You can spend 44K and have the nuts because the binary outcomes, like we were talking about before. So I think that FPX and Up is a really strong combo. I don't think that, I think that Weibo is probably going to come in like half the ownership of Up, if I had to guess, as favorites, and that's always crazy to me.
Yeah, we'll take a look at how that can. I don't know if I can get behind that initially. Let's table that. We'll come back to that. The one thing I think that I do like leaving salary on the table, and I like doing that in almost every sport, with the exception of basketball. Less so. I think playing double dogs, though, is a spot that you still have a lot of advantages, because when you're playing a dog, so for example, if you're building a lineup, and just think, put yourself in, I'm trying to paint a picture for everybody out there. You're sitting there, you're building your lineup, you're in the shower, if you're Gugs, you're playing on your phone, wherever you build your lineups. When you put in that long shot, that team that you don't expect to win, who are the first 2 or 3 teams that you go ahead and stack it with? You stack it with all of the favorites. And that's probably the right way to do it. But you know what? I'm doing that. You're doing that. He's doing that. This other guy is doing that. That's the popular way to do it. I think that if you go with one of the dogs, not necessarily the biggest dog, but one of the dogs, you just put yourself in a position to not dupe as many times if it does happen, and give yourself a little bit of that extra plus EV and equity. Look, at the end of the day, if you can get on the equity sheet from Will and have that expected profit, it's almost as good as having the profit, because at least you won at something, even if you end up losing. Let's go to the last game. The last game of the day, and this one's kind of interesting too, because we have DRX, who's this really strange team right now. They're really good. They're strong. They're minus 345 favorites. Zeka has just been an absolute animal. They're playing this upstart Live Sandbox team that seems to live and die by 0-2s and 2-0s. You can get the 2-0 for DRX, at minus 105, despite the fact that they're a minus 345 favorite. So that's a little bit of a better, a better line. But DRX, man, they've been this team that gives you a really good score one game, gives you a really shitty score the other game. And then on top of that, just play the lines in terms of one fight ending the entire game, I don't feel like they should have won half the games that they've won, despite the fact that they looked better and they executed. They just play this type and this style that somebody is going to take advantage of them. I just don't know if it's Live Sandbox.
Yeah, this is my favorite bet of the day. I think the DRX is just a slam. They're just such a good spot here. They are a better team overall in pretty much every metric. I think that they're going to win this one really handily. Liv I agree with you. I have a little bit of a bias against DRX actually, because DRX, like maybe a year and a half ago or something like that, when they were heading into, I think they were heading into the finals. Maybe it might have been Worlds. I don't remember off the top of my head. They were heading into an international tournament, and everybody was talking about how good they were. And I ran all the numbers and I put everything together, and I was like, this team sucks, dude. Like they don't do anything together. And they ended up getting just stomped out of that international tournament. And so I kind of hold that bias of like, yeah, I was right about them being bad back then. And like maybe I still hold it now, but I do acknowledge they're a significantly better team now. I'll agree with you that I think they've probably gotten lucky. I think that they've probably they've won some coin flips. They won't continue to win through the rest of the year and through the rest of the split. They've been especially strong in their laning phase, and I think there's going to be teams that come out with scaling comps and are able to beat them overall. There are going to be teams that are going to be able to take advantage of them because I don't think they necessarily play together super well. I think they catch the mistakes of other teams well, but I don't think that they are necessarily playing super clean League of Legends.
I do think that they draft very well, so I think that they're a team that has a good read on the meta, and I can't say that is. That is the case with everybody in the LCK.
I think that's a fair point.
There's teams are slow to adapt, and especially over in the East, in my opinion, specifically in the LCK. I don't know if you saw, but Renekton's getting a buff, so that's super exciting. They haven't played anybody good. They played Nongshim, okay? Mm-hmm. Nongshim is good. They just don't win. Like you can be good and not win, right? Like the two are not mutually exclusive. But yeah, look, they haven't had the toughest schedule. But let's face it, they're playing Sandbox, right? Like the Sandy Boys. Like, do we think Sandbox is good? I don't know. I don't. Okay, I mean, I do know they're not good. I know that.
Yeah, like that's kind of my main point here. I guess is like. Yeah, I think that DRX has some weak points. I think that they're really reliant on their laning. I think that they don't exactly draft for scaling super well. I don't think they necessarily team fight all that well. I think they catch mistakes. But Liv is not like Sandbox ain't going to be the team that exploits that. Like that they're not a good team. They team fight even worse. They're a team that relies almost entirely on getting lucky in their team fights late in games, and they don't lane especially well. Like they're not the team that's going to beat DRX. I think that DRX should be like a negative 700 favorite here at the very least, if not like if I would not be surprised if I would have opened up Pinnacle and saw that DRX was the 1400 favorite here and T1 was negative 350. Like I think that is a much more likely set of percentiles for how these games actually play out, because I think the DRX is considerably better than Liv. I think they play a game that is just built to take advantage of the opponent's mistakes, and that's going to come to bite them later on in the season. And when they face good teams, like if they face T1 or if they face DRX or DWG or these teams that are actually good, they're going to struggle against them. But against these bottom teams, that they should just own this spot.
Yeah, and point of note, just from a DFS standpoint, Kingan is, he started the season with a Kale game, just absolute carry, but now he's been on Ornn duty. He's been, I'm just looking through these games, Ornn, Olaf, Siswani. He got a little Gangplank game going there, but I had to vastly adjust some of his numbers to account for all of these things in my projections. He's not a guy that I'm super enthused about putting in my lineup, especially in cash games, because I think DRX is definitely one of those cash game viable teams here, and probably the one that I'm looking at. But Kingan is who I'm going to leave out. I like him in GPPs for that reason. So let's do this. Let's go over to I got to take this off here. Let's go to this screen. And let's take a look at how some of these lineups kind of run together. And I, of course, have way too many Tad. So you know what? I usually track my bets, but I haven't tracked my bets for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, I know where I'm at, up and down. I just haven't actually written them down in a spreadsheet. So, Bovada doesn't make that easy, like at all. And so I spent, a good amount of time earlier today recording 1 week, but I've still got 2 or 3 weeks to go. And I don't know. I have those tabs open. Nevertheless, let's take a look at a couple optimized lineups. This is a a fan favorite here for some of the cash game guys. So T1, obvious cash game team, right? DRX, the next biggest favorite. Let's take a look. Let's see what we can get with these two teams here. Oh, the irony. The irony of Keegan, just as I was just talking about that. 458, the way that this lineup is put together, I don't hate it, to be quite honest. I don't like the captain, and it doesn't look like you can change that. I don't think you can get Zeus up there, but you've got Zeka, you've got Gumi, you've got Kira, you've got a Dragon X team that we think is going to sweep and probably is going to get a lot of dragons. I don't hate this. I don't hate this for head-to-heads. I do not necessarily like this for smaller field double-ups or specifically winner-take-alls.
No, I wouldn't play that in winner-take-all. There's no way. T1 just doesn't project well enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing about T1 is last spring, a lot of people, especially people that came on the show, tried to talk me out of T1. I saw that they were this skirmish heavy team that was going to carry the team or to carry the LCK to this DFS prominence and this promised land that the Shark Cove talked about and they delivered on. And a team from that league always was in the optimal, but they haven't been that team. This split. They've, in fact, been slower than some of the other teams in the LCK. And, in fact, it's Nongshim and DRX that have carried that torch. But this lineup, I don't know. I think we're going to see some better ones. 458, 90? Nah, probably not. So let's take a look at Weibo. What can we get here? If you didn't like Kenyon as a captain, you don't like On. I think my On projection, some of these like support projections are kind of like off this year. But you do get 4 Weibo. They are playing up. You still get Zeus. You get Kira. This is not this would be great at MSI.
What do you have On projected for?
72 in a 2-1, 83 in a 2-0.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't projected 53 as me.
Oh, I know where people have him projected.
Yeah, I'm not playing him in cash. There's 0% chance that I'm playing a support captain with On in cash. No way.
All right, well, let's go take a look at RA. They're the other favorite, and we've got a 497. We can get a mid captain here. Yeah, I like this a lot more. You avoid iBoy, but you do get Faker. And you almost have to. I almost think that you could do something like this. So this is 497. This is obviously the optimal. But what if you did this? 492. I don't project the team score, but you have to go with where you're at. I almost think I like this a little bit better. I think the team score for T1 does end up being higher, but like you can't get them in there. I like this. I think you get all the pieces of the teams that you like in this spot. I don't hate this for cash. Out of the 3 RA or out of the 3 T1 combinations, this is probably my favorite, but it's not my favorite overall.
Yeah, this is fine. I would probably, if I'm going to go with any of the combinations, I'm probably going with the DRX T1 combination, just because like if I am going to go with T1, then what I'm saying is that I think that every other team is just so shaky that I'm not going to play underdogs. And so I'm just going to go with the DRX T1 combo.
Yeah, so there is something to be said about that. I mean, that's kind of the way that I do teach some people to play cash. If you're going to play cash consistently and you're going to play it every night and you're going to play it against, head-to-heads against a variety of people, just playing the 2 biggest favorites together, as long as you get enough of a spread, you should be able to grind something out in terms of an ROI, but requires consistency and it requires diversity in your opponents.
Yeah.
So, That being said, this Weibo DRX doesn't look much better. I certainly do like it. I mean, SOFM in wins has scored very well, but you end up with the Shy, you end up with King, and one of the two who have not scored very well. Zek is there. I don't know. I don't think you could get something where he ends up being the captain.
I don't know. Self-from captain is fine. I don't mind that, but ending up on the Shy is. This is not the meta where the Shy is shining, man. It's just not.
There's you just don't have a lot of options, man. You could almost get Angel right here. What if you go? You can't. Okay, that's the cheaper. I don't want to go Def there. He's more expensive. Can I go SFM? No. I mean, you just can't. You end up with 3 teams here. So, man, what if we go DRX with RA? What happens then?
Oh, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
I think this is more of a winner take all kind of lineup.
I mean, I'll agree with that only because I think that RA FPX game is an absolute toss up.
Yeah, I mean, you might hedge it with some FPX in some of your GPPs, but I like this. You get an RA captain. I think you probably can switch this around, quite frankly. And you can do something like this, which I probably prefer. If we go where Adam, we go mid, go Strive, and then I don't know, maybe let's see. So Yanja versus that's a 6-point difference. Cube, that's a 5-point difference. So I think you go here then, maybe.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I think that's okay. I actually like this. I like this quite a bit. This is very similar to what was the almost nut lineup last night, where you have the mid captain and knight. You have the 3 others right there. You go with PP God, you switch that. So that's a variation that I think is good in winner take alls. I don't think that we're going to find a better, it might have been the first one. It might be the clear and cut. Didn't think that we were going to like it, but I think in winner take alls, especially if you're playing some of those people that play Frankenstein lineups, and now this one projects out the best. And I do like that quite a bit. But if you are playing some of those guys and you know who they are, this is probably your best head-to-head lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in head-to-heads, I don't know why you'd do anything but T1 DRX on the slate. I mean, I guess you could go DRX with Weibo, maybe, but I like that more for GPPs. I don't think that you can really get away from DRX T1 and Gash.
Yeah, so look, this ends up being the optimal in a ceiling, a 2-0, a 2-1 in both of my projections. This ends up scoring actually a little bit better in 2-0s. I don't like it as much. I think that there's some safety. You get the 4 Team 1. I think you'd have just as much safety from the top captain. And look, what you're hoping for here is some Gangplank games. You're hoping for a Kale game or 2. And this lineup right here could very easily take down a GPP, 1 to 5% of the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God, Kinging up there. I don't know about all that. But
look, you're not going to be duped. Let me put it that way.
You will not be duped. That is very true.
So if DRX sweeps, Kenyan has a great game. Imagine your expected profit after that first game.
Yeah, you'll look great. And like we said, I mean, you're going to win at something if you're able to just have that equity for one game,
So I know you're watching. I know you're going to ask me about lineups. You know who you are, all of you. This is it. This is the one right here at 59 minutes and 23 seconds. And you know what's funny, James? So last night I put together all my lineups, right? And I had the 1-333 lineup, and one of the guys who sends me his cash lineups on a regular basis shoots me a message. He's like, "What do you think of this lineup for cash?" And I was like, "Well, fuck, that's my GPP, my big lineup." and like you just came up with that like right away. Like, is this going to be popular? Like, I thought this was going to be unique. So I switched it, and basically I switched PP God to Mark because I thought Mark had a little bit of a higher ceiling than PP God, and that completely ended up being the wrong thing to do. That 20 points took me out of first place for a share of 2,500 or 34,000 or whatever it was. I hit the min cash. I won a cool $20 in the main. Could have won 500. So sometimes the cash lineup wins, but this is a 4-game slate, so it's a little different.
I hate when the cash lineup wins, man. That's the antithesis of my entire existence. It's like that. There's two things that are just the worst thing for me to see: when the cash lineup wins in League of Legends, and when the home run parlay wins in MLB. Those two things just tilt me to no end because it's like y'all didn't even think about this, did you? Y'all like the home run parlay one. I go back and forth of like, did this person think for hours on this, right? Like 4 hours worth of research looking for these home run shots and then put it together and he gets paid off? Or did he for 5 minutes say,
that's what it is,
dudes? It is. It's every time.
Dude, there are TikTok, there are TikTok accounts that are based on, the like 5 nerfy, 5 home run, dollar, because that's all I've got to win 24,000. Like, I'm going to hit it eventually, right? No, you're probably not. And then there are the ones that actually get it, or just like, look, guys, if you get 7 out of those 8 legs or whatever the case is, just cash it out.
Yeah,
just cash it out at that point. Come on, you're betting $1.
Also,
whatever your cash out is life changing.
Yeah. I want to get on TikTok really bad. I just haven't had the time to like figure out how to do it.
So we've got one question before we close out here. James, what do you think about somebody running a 70 lineup train? 70 lineup train in a 2-game, and apparently he does it every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. And winning 11,000 in a, what was it, 120-man chop because you have half the chop.
All right, so look, I'm gonna be against the grain here, right? I think running trains is objectively good in low dollar contests. In low dollar contests, I have to say that because like the expected value of hitting one lineup across like all of those things, like sure, if you dupe with 70 other people, then your expected value sucks. But if you hit for 11,000 with your 70 lineup train, your expected value is literally better than anyone else in the contest could possibly be. So objectively, not only is your expected value higher when you first do, like without even doing anything, as soon as log hits, your expected value is higher because you automatically can win more than anybody else can. But if you think that you are better than the people who you are playing, i.e., if you are a person who usually plays at 333 and now you're playing like the $4 or something like that, right? If you have 70 lineups in the $4 and you believe that your skill is that much better than the people that you're playing, not only has your expected value risen because you have more money that you can possibly win with that one lineup, but you're facing weaker competition, which gives you even more expected value. So I think objectively, it's actually a good thing to do if you are only going to play one lineup.
So I'll tell you this, part of my strategy, and it's not that much different from, Jay Prez from over at FTN, is I try and hedge and get different lineups. Sure. Because I do. Where I started being good at DFS was like I realized that I don't fucking know anything. So often people are trying to pick winners, and some of you, message me like, "Hey, who do you think's going to win?" I don't know. Like, I mean, how often am I correct? Like 60% of the time. Yeah. What kind of actionable info are you getting from that? Especially when I'm picking favorites some of those times. when I just embraced the variance and realized it was going to be wrong, and I'm going to go ahead and embrace that, and I'm going to pick wrong teams and teams that I think are going to lose. That's when I started being better. But so I wanted to hedge, but I feel like a dickhead doing it. Like let's say I had 3 lineups in the 333 back in the good days a week ago when they gave you 3 lineups. Now it's just 2. But so tonight I'm going to build 2 lineups there, and I'm going to build 5 in the 44. I feel like a complete asshole if I run the same 5 lineups in that 44 as a like pseudo 333 entry. And it's partially because I'm playing in the 44 with a bunch of people that are in the Discords and I know. If I'm just a random and I don't talk to these people, maybe I do it. And maybe I embrace being that asshole. And maybe I embrace it tonight because, I'm drinking some white chocolate. And that's what I feel like doing. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'm coming for you, Mort. Coming for you.
That's one of the things as a content creator too, right? Like back in the days of when League of Legends was running king and we had the pandemic and it was just like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do, or this is what we're going to gamble on. People would ask me like, what am I playing? Like, what's my anchor strat? Because that was the big thing back then was we would run an anchor strat where we would have we'd choose 2 games and we would split them, and then we would pair them with the highest favorite on the slate, and then the 5th lineup. So it was 5 lineups. So those 4 lineups would be 2 different sides of 2 different games paired with the biggest favorite, and then the 5th game would be the opponent of the biggest favorite with the highest upside team. So that was the anchor strat, and it was incredibly profitable. Like, it's fantastic. But people would ask me like, who am I using for my anchor strat? And I would be hesitant to tell them because it's like, there's a side of me that's content creator and like a person who is trying to help people win money. And then there's the side of me, it's like, I need to also win money so I can pay my rent, So like, do I want to give away what I'm going to be playing and then possibly be duped in the large field contests? So like my answer to that was just staying in the 33 and the 44 where, maybe people wouldn't be duping me there, but they'd be playing in the 15. Right. So, it's hard though. It's hard as a content creator and as somebody who's giving out information because you don't want to kill your own edge, but like you still want to help people.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I mean, when you were talking about it, like those contests were big enough that you could do that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you feasibly could, and people would still screw it up. Nowadays, man, half the people in the 333 watch the show or in the Discord. Maybe that's generous. Maybe it's not. I'm sure that there are days where more than half the entries in the 333 are either people on the Shark Cove, watching the Shark Cove, or at least are in, conversations with the Shark Cove people. So, nevertheless, this is where we end. This is the spot. I think we landed at DRX T1 for a cash game. You guys all saw it. It was at 53 minutes and 23 seconds into the show. James, go ahead and give us a last pitch about where I can win or where I can get 50 cents as an affiliate if people sign up with my code.
Yeah, go use the code SHARK over at Paydirt DFS.
All caps.
All caps, SHARK, all caps over at PaydirtDFS.com. On a monthly subscription, you'll get $5 off. And at the very least, come join the Discord. We're active all day. Unlike a lot of other DFS site Discords, I'm there all day. Like I'll talk with you guys. I'll give info. I'll give information, whatever. But yeah, just go and, go check out the site. I've been putting in a lot of work on it, and I'm really proud of the things I've built out there. And I will say that I'm not going to play tonight. So go ahead and use my lineup of Weibo with FPX and take down a GPP for me, and let me know when you do over on Twitter. I'm sure Cody will do it and take it down and let me know about it in the Discord. But dupe with him.
Cody's going to get second. I'm not saying that I'm going to get first. That's not that. It's just Cody always gets second.
Yeah, he'll get second because somebody will run out of fountain and dive.
He's very similar to me. We always get second. Like I had a weekend where I got second every single time. So do that. But James, what you're going to need especially with this newfound wine habit of yours, or like a rekindled wine habit, whatever the case, whichever way you want to describe it, you need like a wine and beverage channel.
Oh man, yeah, that'd be great.
We have one over at the esports department. People don't necessarily utilize it. It's usually me posting my like weird beers, or this past weekend it was my my Kool-Aid lemonade vodka mix. So put it there. We'll put we'll put what's going on in there. Maybe a little bit, maybe a music channel. I don't know. It's the vibes, like a whole vibes section.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out. Outside of that, like I'm in a couple Discords, so you can get the bets there. You can get the esports department over on WeBet and Bet Pros. So I post all of my ERL bets in at least one of those Discords. I sometimes forget one or the other. So usually I get 3 out of the 4, 2 out of the 4. So you can put them in there. We've had a really good streak. Today was the first day where we dropped 0.2 units, but I think we were up about 20 last week. So not 20, it was more like 5 or 6. It was more like 12 or 15 if we count LCS, but I don't always post those. ERLs, they're very good. We're going to crush it tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. And if you're watching right now, I'm going to drop this Gold Card Podcast reunion on Thursday. That's right. All 4 of the guys are going to be here. So that's a big thing right here. I'll talk to you guys later.